Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. Who am I? I am, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, join me as we gather around and talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, and all that sorts of good stuff. And, of course, if you're talking about all sorts of good stuff, you got to be talking about Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, it's great to be here. Today is a good day.
It's a special day. I mean, granted, we take for granted we have seen Avengers Endgame a couple of times, but today is the official opening day. It starts going wide today, and there's another guy here joining us who's also already seen Avengers Endgame. From Real Rejects, he is Mr. Greg Alba. Greg, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, John Campea. He's wonderful.
He's starting off badly with a cat in his lap.
Cats are an easy way to get people to like you on YouTube. You know, Robert is someone I've seen for years on the internet, and I've even seen him speak at certain events, but I've never collaborated with him in any capacity. So
this is a great honor for me. We're both cat owners.
Yes.
Cat owners.
Neutral
okay,
ground.
guys.
I'm wearing my Thanos Flirkin shirt, too.
Oh, my goodness.
Just saying, I know it's unauthorized. I feel terrible about it.
It's just for those of you who can't see it, it's a picture of what are they, it's not Chewie in the movie. It's it's Goose that says, "Bring me Thanos," which looks pretty damn good.
I just put it on. I will be wearing it to the Cinerama Dome at 6 p.m. tonight, where I see Endgame again with crowds of throngs of people.
Throngs even.
Nice.
All right, guys, listen, there's a lot of stuff we got to cover today, including a number of things off the top. And not only is it a great day for the fact that Avengers Endgame now is going to be in theaters here in North America, but it's also a great day for me personally. Why? Because the first trailer for Lucifer has dropped. Netflix's Lucifer. You guys remember, I was just absolutely giddy when I found out that Lucifer was going to be saved by Netflix. They dropped the first trailer of it today. Guys, I am just, this is one of those shows. I don't know if you guys have shows like this for yourselves. This is one of the shows that I took a pass on it when it launched. I'm like, this looks ridiculous. Oh, the devil on vacation in California. How quaint. And I took a pass on it. And then it was about, when it was in week 5 of its first season, I finally had a couple friends of mine saying, no, John, you really should check it out. And I did, and I've been obsessively hooked with it ever since. Absolutely 100% hooked on this thing. I saw the trailer for it this morning. It launches, season 4 launches on May 8th. Thank you, Netflix, for saving this show. And it looks great. They're introducing the character Eve into it, who looks like it's going to be a little bit of a love triangle sort of stuff. I just think it looks phenomenal. Now, this just dropped this morning, and you guys and I have not talked about this at all. Have either of you caught this trailer that dropped this morning?
I did, but I have to say, did you see there was a teaser with Lucifer coming out of a swimming pool that I saw last week?
Yes, that one little tweet tease that came last week. Yes.
I mean, you know, I'm a straight male, but let me tell you, that guy's one beautiful man. I mean, the devil could take me down the road to temptation.
Tom Ellis is the name of the guy who plays Lucifer, and I got to tell you, he is flat out my favorite character on television right now. Lucifer is my favorite character. And by the way, the girl with the knives standing beside him there is Maze or Mazikeen, his main tortured demon, his main lieutenant demon. She might be my 3rd or 4th or 5th in my top 5 favorite television characters as well. Now, Greg, I don't know, have you ever even watched this show?
No, I'm not going to be able to contribute much to this conversation, honestly. But I feel like, though, you know, if it goes on Netflix, odds of it getting canceled are pretty high. They just canceled Santa Clarita Diet, which I thought was a major hit, and suddenly it's completely gone. So I don't know. It seems like everything that goes to Netflix these days gets canceled, and it's really bumming me out.
It seems like 3 seasons is the charm, and then they cancel the show. They canceled Eric McCormack's science fiction show Travelers after 3 seasons. I really like, but I gotta say, John, the thing about Lucifer was this began in the pages of Neil Gaiman's Sandman, the character of Lucifer, and then like Mazikeen was in Sandman, and then obviously spun off into a very successful DC comic that ran for is it still running? I think it's still running in our various incarnations. And you got me on this show. Like, I'd seen the pilot, but because of you, I started watching it, and I'm not quite. I just started the 3rd season.
Oh, wow.
And
so you're that far up already.
I really am enjoying it, I have to say, and I wouldn't have watched it if it wasn't for you.
Well, I'm glad to be a Lucifer evangelist, everybody. I love this show.
Do you know if they're gonna be making it more gritty? Because it was on Fox originally, right?
It was on Fox, and I joke about this a lot, but I was constantly stunned by the stuff they were getting away with on this show for broadcast cable. One of the funniest moments I've ever seen in TV, and forgive me for the vulgarity of it, but it's this gag where Lucifer and this one actress who plays like a CSI kind of person she used to be on Dexter. She used to play the babysitter, the girl that used to babysit Dexter's kids, and Hell's little sister. Anyway, and they were trying to recreate what the crime scene was, but the way they recreate it is that she's on his knees in front of him, standing in front of him, but she's supposedly mimicking a stabbing motion, but she's on her knees in front of him going, this, and it's like, I'm like, how are they doing this on broadcast television? It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But one of the things that actress came out and said is that, oh yeah, we're pushing the boundaries more that we're on Netflix. Because the show is constantly making jokes about threesomes, and every time you come across Lucifer, he's coming out of bed with 4 people and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, they said they're gonna go a little more gritty in season 4, which I just hope they keep the spirit of it.
Would you say, anyway, John, that they're going to bring the filthy?
I think Lucifer is going to bring the filthy this season. I really do. I think they will, and I'm very, very excited about that. All right, listen, guys.
You deviants, you.
I can talk about Lucifer all day, but we do got a lot of other stuff to talk about here. Listen, another movie that's coming out. We got a movie coming out, guys. Very excited, with Chris Hemsworth, Tessa Thompson, and no, I'm not talking about Endgame. We're talking about Men in Black International. They have dropped spots before, but this morning they dropped another full trailer this morning.
They dropped it at midnight.
Was it at midnight they dropped it?
I covered it at midnight. Yeah.
Really? I didn't even realize that. So here comes this trailer now, and it gives more of the backstory to Tessa Thompson's character, how she gets plugged in, a little reminiscent of the Will Smith, kind of stumbling into it a little bit, although she's been on the hunt for them. So this first trailer for Men in Black, this next trailer, I should say, for Men in Black International comes out. Greg, you already kind of covered it. So what were your thoughts on this trailer?
I wasn't a big fan of the first trailer. I felt like it was trying to be Men in Black, but it wasn't really doing its own thing. I like this new trailer way, way more. And I actually like the idea of Tessa Thompson's background sort of taking advantage of what could be considered a potential plot hole with the whole neuralizer thing. Like sometimes people might not just get neuralized, and for a little girl to just witness that happen and be searching for it the whole time gives it a more personal motive for her to be part of the MIB. And I think like Chris Hemsworth looks like he is a combination of his new Thor rendition met with a little bit of his Ghostbusters character, but I think Tessa Thompson, I don't like, even though we're always going Thor and Valkyrie, I don't feel like she's doing Valkyrie in this one. Their chemistry looks great in it, and I'm not like super ecstatic about it, but I'm much more excited for it than I was than the first trailer.
Rob, did you have a chance to check it out yet?
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's funny. I really think Hemsworth is a deft comedian, and he's been given these he's allowed, especially after Ragnarok and Ghostbusters, to sort of expand. And he spoke about how in Endgame he was worried that the Russo brothers would pull him back to make him the Thor of Thor 1, for instance. And he was happy that they went more in the direction of his talents. And I think whenever I've seen him in real life, he's just a funny guy.
Yes.
He seems like, he talks about his kids. What a dad that guy must be. And I think it really, like you had said, that the Greg, that this plays to his strengths. So I think that's terrific, and I love that.
I watched there's celebrity insults, him and Scarlett Johansson last night.
Oh my God,
so funny. yeah.
Did you see the one with Ryan Reynolds and Josh Brolin?
Oh yeah, that's my favorite.
That one was just
that's my favorite
just
one.
Nuts. And I agree. I think this felt a little bit like the Thor he has been turning into a little bit. I think your analogy was bang on, Greg. The Thor he's been turning into, crossed with his characters in Ghostbusters. I'll tell you what, I like this trailer. I actually think I might have liked the other one better. So
really?
There was something about it that felt a little thin. Just something, but granted, there's still probably going to be another full trailer dropping, and we'll probably get a better idea. But I did like the Tessa Thompson element to this one. I just got to see a little bit more, because right now it feels almost like a Saturday Night Live parody of Men in Black a little bit to me. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't know, but we're going to have to wait and see, and we'll find out soon enough for sure. All right.
Sorry, there you go.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say, Greg?
I just find it kind of interesting. It's F. Gary Gray, right, who's directing it?
Yes.
Yeah. And the fact that Barry Levinson, who was the director? Barry Sonnenfeld did the original Men in Black trilogy. And I feel like he's trying to replicate what Barry Sonnenfeld did instead of just really doing his own stamp on it. And that's the main thing that's distracting to me about it. I feel like when you try to do another director's work, it doesn't really. And I think that's where the Saturday Night Live comparison sort of comes into play here.
All right. Well, with that down, another big thing in news dropped this morning, just not as big as we were kind of anticipating.
Yeah, I know.
Last couple of days, this big thing came out. Guys, big live reveal event for James Bond 25. And some people were expecting maybe a little bit of a teaser, although most people felt it might have been too easy of a trailer. But certainly everybody felt we were going to get a title. We're going to get a title. And they didn't give us a title. However, what they did do was they gave us a bit of a cast rundown, most of which we already knew.
Yeah.
And so, of course, so what we got out of it was this. So we found out that Ralph Fiennes is, of course, coming back as M. We got Rory Kinnear coming as, what's his name again? Tanner is coming back. Ben Whishaw is going to come back as Q. We got Naomi Harris coming back as Money Perry. We got Leah Seydoux, who
Penny.
What's that?
Penny.
Money Penny. What did I say?
Perry.
Did I say Perry? Sorry. Money Penny. I don't know why I said Perry.
You will get so much hate.
I'm going to get so much hate for that. We got Leop, who's playing Madeline Swan, coming back. Jeffrey Wright is returning from his Quantum of Solace role as a CIA agent. The two more interesting ones were this. One I already knew about, one I didn't. One is Rami Malek. He is coming in. He is the presumptive villain of the film, and I think he'll make a great villain, of course, coming off his Oscar win. And coming off of her success in Captain Marvel, we got Lashana Lynch, although they haven't given a name to her character yet at this point. Now, one of the things that they did say in this thing was this movie is going to start with James Bond basically off the clock. He's not in active service. He's going to be at his spiritual home, they call it, in Jamaica. And then something happens. That's all the details they gave us. So this big event was to tell us a bunch of casting, most of which we already knew, no title, and at least it tells us that James Bond is going to start with him kind of being off the clock and out of active duty. Rob, I know you were really looking forward to getting a new title today. They did drop some stuff, and it's always cool to hear more James Bond stuff. And again, one of the worst kept secrets, they kind of let off with, we can confirm that Daniel Craig is back as James Bond. It's like, everybody knew this. What?
That's what I heard about it.
Yeah. We can reveal to you that James Bond's agent number is 007. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rob, what did you think about the announcements this morning and the cast list we got? Were there any surprises there for you?
No, I mean, I really wanted a title. I couldn't sleep last night because I'm a huge James Bond fan. I was waiting to hear this title. I'm sure that they don't know the title is, to me, never a good thing. I know that the problem that the Bond franchise has had, Purvis and Wade, who I've actually met and like very much, they write the scripts, and then they bring people like Paul Haggis had come in, John Logan had come in, and they have other people work on these scripts. Now you've got Phoebe Waller-Bridge coming in, who I really like, to punch up. Now it makes more sense. I mean, she's written some great dialogue on Killing Eve, and I understand why Daniel Craig wanted her to come in. But once again, I feel that Casino Royale was such a great movie. It was such a great Bond film. And since then, Quantum of Solace suffered from the writer's strike. And then we got with Skyfall, which I thought was pretty nonsensical. And it was a movie where James Bond fails from the opening title sequence, pre-title sequence, to the end of the movie. He fails in the one thing he's supposed to do. And he was off the clock then. And then we're coming off of a really uninspired movie like Spectre. What I wanted to see was a return to luster for the James Bond character. So Daniel Craig could go out on a high note, go out with his Spy Who Loved Me or his Goldfinger or his GoldenEye or whatever. I mean, I wanted to see a big epic Bond film, not I'm retired chilling in Jamaica, drinking tequila, playing games with scorpions, James Bond, that we already saw in Skyfall.
Yeah.
But, times change.
hear you. Robert, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I don't think John knows.
I don't. Let me try reset it.
Okay,
Now I can hear. Oh, sorry.
hear.
For some reason, my thing just kind of. Okay, first
I'm
of
sure
all,
whatever you said was great, though.
yeah, what I said was wonderful and great. Let me rephrase. Sorry, I had to reset it. I don't know why I had to reset that thing. So, look, the thing is, I'm sure the movie's just starting with Bond there. I think like what I was saying before was that I'm sure it's not the first 45 minutes of the film is not going to be James Bond playing shuffleboard with a bunch of expat American retirees on the beaches of Jamaica, and that's the first 45 minutes playing for martini shots. You know, I don't think that's what's going to be. And I'm kind of surprised that you didn't like Skyfall, because I think for a lot of people, that's a lot of people's favorite. Now, mine is Casino Royale, but I think a lot of people's favorite, you know, Daniel Craig era Bond is Skyfall. I mean, I'm surprised to hear it didn't work for you.
Dude, I flew to London to see Skyfall. It opened 2 weeks early in the
Really?
UK. I'd seen ever since 1983 in Octopussy, I basically had gone to press screenings of all the Bond films, and I wanted to see it with some fanatical fans. Opening day in the Odeon Cinema in Leicester Square. I bought tickets. I even met friends. I had friends come from Norway to meet me, and we went and saw it. And I was with Charlie de Lazarica as well, and we just walked out of the theater. Charlie's he's a Bond fanatic like I am, and we're just like, man, I loved Javier Bardem, but his character, they were clearly trying to emulate a little Dark Knight action, a little Joker, and it didn't work for me.
Greg,
maybe
you
there
saw
was
the
too much hype, you know, because I drove 10 minutes to watch it, and you flew thousands of miles.
Well, it was the 50th anniversary of the Bond cinematic franchise, and I just thought, because I loved Casino Royale, and I'm a Quantum of Solace apologist. I think that movie's a lot better than people think. It just was hampered by the writers' strike. They couldn't really get the script into shape, but there's a lot there that I really like, and I love. But here's the thing. Even a bad Bond movie, I'll love. Like View to a Kill, Man with Golden Gun. You know, I'm a big. I just love the franchise.
Greg, was anything stand out to you in the announcement this morning? Did you find it lackluster, or was there anything interesting to you?
It is 1,000% everything I've already heard. Like I guess the one cool thing about this that I like, even though it's everything I've already heard, this Bond movie has been delayed so much, and they keep, switching directors out, and they keep switching scripts around. And it's nice to know that, okay, we officially do have something that is going forward now, that they are actually going to get off the ground, and we have a very specific direction. So that's the main thing I'd be excited for. It's kind of like with the DC universe, how they announced so many films, but then when you're like, okay, they're actually going into production now. All right, okay, so this is really happening. And I guess that's the exciting part to me is, this is really happening. And Casino Royale has been the best one out of all the Daniel Craig films. And even though Daniel Craig hasn't played Bond as much as other actors, he has been Bond longer, just because of the amount of time gaps there have been between his films. And I'm kind of hoping that they really do focus on closing this specific Bond story and sort of tying it back to Casino Royale in terms of character development in some way, because there was such a high note with Casino Royale for a personal, gritty Bond. And then I like Skyfall. I don't love Skyfall. And Casino Royale is the only one of the Daniel Craig films that I genuinely love, and I feel like you have to. They set up so much, and I feel like we haven't really gotten anything that meets anywhere near that capacity that the first Daniel Craig one had. So if this is going to end on a high note, I feel like you really got to wrap his character up in a specific way.
I also think, just one last thought, we need to see Bond be actually James Bond and loving it. Because in Casino Royale, he just became Bond. Quantum of Solace was sort of an addendum to Casino. In Skyfall, he had left the service because he got shot off of a train. And then Spectre, it was kind of, I want to see a real mission. Him going on a mission where he travels the world,
Yeah, the cool thing is for heroes to not like being heroes.
We could go on Bond here for a while, but we've got a lot of other stuff we got to get to. So, guys, let's jump now into our main topics of the day. How do we select our main topics here in the John Campea Show? It's really rather simple to see you guys select them by going to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. There, you'll see a form, fill it out, submit your topic or question, and maybe, just maybe, you may see your topic as one of the main issues here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get to our first main topic today. And the first main topic is submitted to us by Don Tuin, who writes, "Good morning, John. While everyone was all excited about the Fox Disney acquisition, one of the sad casualties is that a number of smaller and story-driven movie projects have been axed by the mouse. Movies like Mouse Guard, ironic, News of the World, and on the come up, it appears all Disney is interested in is big franchise moneymakers. Isn't this something that should worry us as film fans? Thanks." All right, so look, we knew when Disney was going to be taking over Fox, we understood that there were probably going to be casualties. Certainly, there were staff casualties, because I can't remember what the number was, guys. Was it somewhere around 4,000 or something like that?
Yeah, that's what they said.
People lost their jobs, and you knew at some point some movie projects would get the axe too. I love this graphic Ray put together. So we see On the Come Up being thrown out based on the work of the same person who did The Hate U Give. We Mouse Guard. Rob, you were talking about that the other day, about how disappointed you hear that the Mouse Guard, although that's probably going to end up at another studio. And the Tom Hanks project, News of the World, also gets axed. I believe that's going over to Paramount though. So we are going to see this film. Now, this has some people concerned. Now, there are other projects still moving forwards. Projects like West End Story, that's going to keep going on. Kingsman is going to continue. There are other things like this.
Avatar.
Well, yeah, obviously Avatar is going to keep going as well. But here's the thing. I've been hearing a lot of people saying today that this is just a sign that all Disney cares about is the big blockbuster franchise. That's all Disney cares about, big blockbuster franchise. And I don't necessarily think that's true, but this is kind of highlighted by one of the websites that I really enjoy, and I quote often here on the John Campea Show, but I disagree with them a little bit here, but I want to use them as an example because they're one of my favorite sites that I read. It's SlashFilm. I really enjoy SlashFilm. And they wrote their opinion on this way, and I'll tell you why I disagree with this. But they wrote this. For example, talking about the slashing of these films, no pun intended. For example, the Hollywood Reporter says Disney killed On the Come Up didn't make the cut because Thomas's last project, The Hate U Give, lost $30 to $40 million, despite a modest $23 million budget and a marketing spend believed to be at about $30 million. Unfortunately, the film only made about $26 million at the box office. After you take away the theater cut, yeah, it lost between $30 and $40 million. The Hate U Give was highly acclaimed among critics, but because the film failed to make money, Disney is now unwilling to give a similar project a fair shake. That should alarm people, but probably won't. All right, here's kind of my thought on this. Is it, well, just because it didn't make money, they're not going to give another project a fair shake? I mean, come on. Her last project, The Hate U Give, was really good. This is just a sign that Disney doesn't want to give smaller movies a chance. I disagree completely. Why? Because of the fact that was brought up in the earlier statement. The Hate U Give lost $30 to $40 million, despite the fact that it only cost in the 20s to make. Despite, when you're a movie that's that low budget, there should be no excuse for losing $30 to $40 million. There's no excuse for that. If you were a $120 million film, yeah, I could see how you could lose $30 to $40 million. This was a small project and it still lost $30 to $40 million. Now, what people then bring up is, but The Hate U Give was so good. That only proves the point even more. Because if The Hate U Give turned out to be a bad movie, and it was a brilliant movie, but if The Hate U Give turned out to be a bad movie, you could make the excuse, well, yeah, it lost 30 to 40 million, but only because the filmmakers adapting it didn't do a good job. If they had done a more faithful job, if they had done a better job, if they had made the movie better, that's a property that could have made more money. But you can't make that excuse because the movie was outstanding. The movie's fantastic. So this isn't Disney. This is any freaking studio. If they were looking at a property and saying, okay, we've got this on the come up, all right, based on the work of the person who just did The Hate U Give, all right, and The Hate U Give lost $30 to $40 million despite the fact that it was a brilliant movie. So what can you possibly bring to the table to say, well, we'll make On the Come Up better? I mean, so I'll tell you what, guys, I reject this notion right now that this is a sign that Disney is just shooing away anything that's not a big franchise film. No, I think almost any studio would look at this proposition and go, this might be one we take a pass on because we're not in the business to lose $20 million when we put out a movie. We're not in the business to lose $30 million when we're putting out a movie. Now, and I think that is highlighted by the fact that Mouse Guard has found another studio, News of the World has found another studio, but On the Come Up hasn't. So I don't know. That's just the way I kind of see this sort of thing. Greg, you're looking at this whole scenario and situation. How do you interpret all of this?
I mean, going off of what you're saying, I agree, because once this Disney Fox deal happened, this is something that everyone who's been following this story has speculated it. So the second there's an inkling of this happening, or they, like the three main projects that got dropped, the big talk starts happening of we're only going to get big blockbuster films. Disney doesn't care about this, and people feel like people react really heavily as if Disney's the only movie studio now. Because the second I heard about like the Tom Hanks, Paul Greengrass project getting dropped, I'm like, oh, it's probably going to find another studio. And I didn't know they did until you just said it, actually. But when I heard that, I figured it probably would. I think that this is not surprising. I mean, the Disney Fox deal, I don't think Fox would have done this deal with Disney if Fox didn't have some financial decision making that they had trouble with, where Disney was going to step in and have to clean some stuff up. I mean, I'm not excited that they got rid of the Fox 2000 banner, because I like movies like Love, Simon and Hidden Figures, but for the most part, I pretty much just agree with everything you're saying, because this is not this is not surprising when you're hearing movies like Mouse Guard, which had a budget of like $150 to $170 million, which is kind of, I mean, I'm like, would that movie really make that money back?
Because you're talking about a movie that needed to make about $380-400 million just to break even at that point.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's I don't know who's excited for Mouse Guard, and maybe there's a small fan base, but I was. Yeah, I'm sure Robert Meyer Burnett was. But to me, it just sounds like I feel like what they want to do is redirect some focus. They want to focus on a little bit more mid-budget films. And of course, they're going to focus on their franchise properties. And I think they're doing some cleanup here. And I feel like whatever films get the axe over at Fox, I'm sure they'll probably move over to someplace else where they can be better served ultimately. So to me, this is not a freak out scenario, the way how a lot of people are sort of reacting to this.
And the other thing to keep in mind too here is that you mentioned Fox 2000, which it does suck that they acted, but they did keep Fox Searchlight. Yeah. And Rob, at CinemaCon, they highlighted a lot of these movies they're very proudly behind with Fox Searchlight, and they're doing that stuff. But anyway, Rob, you're hearing all this. What's your reaction to this?
Well, I think it's important to remember that Disney just spent $70 billion to acquire Fox. Mm-hmm. The thing they can't be doing their first 2 or 3 or 4, even 5 years, is lose money at all. And like a movie like Mouse Guard, which is based on an incredible series of graphic novels, somebody described it as Game of Thrones with mice. I wouldn't go that far, but it is that kind of a story. First of all, it's a beautiful graphic novel series, but $170 million untried property that's new is a huge risk. And if Disney if they can't come out of the gate with their Fox acquisition and start making, they've got to have winner after winner after winner, so they can go back to the shareholders who are already going, you spent $70 billion? I mean, come on, you got ESPN not delivering. We got to get some cheddar coming in. They have to be very shrewd. And my man, Bob Iger, I haven't talked to him about this, but I'm sure, Greg, see, I talk to Bob Iger all the time. But I'm sure it's a big, I'm just kidding, but it's a big deal. And it's a lot of money. And while the economic reality might not want to be something we tend to think of as film fans, it is not a surprise to me. And Disney is very open to, like, please, somebody take these off. We want these movies to get made, take them off of our hands so we can concentrate on making sure that our acquisition, they want to shore up their defenses and make sure that the foundation of this Fox sale is sound. That's why we are going to get Deadpool 3. They are going to make these movies because those movies are risk averse. They're risk free. and we'll probably get another Alien film, because even though Alien Covenant didn't make as much money as it might have, it should have been better. But we're going to see Fox movies that are guaranteed money makers, and that's what they have to do.
At least out of the gate. You know, it's funny because I've had a number of people write to me and say, John, like, do you think now Disney should buy Sony next? Who do you think Disney should buy next? I'm like, Disney just spent over half their net worth to buy Fox. They ain't buying nothing. They ain't buying lunch for the next number of years. They've got to restock the coffers for a while here and get that safety blanket back in. All right, guys, we got to move on here to our next topic here. And our next main topic here today comes to us from one of our viewers, Anat Siramra, who writes, "Hey, John, longtime fan. Thank you so much, Anat. I was flipping through my news feed when I noticed an article from IO9 saying that the new Doug Liman movie, Chaos Walking, is supposedly unreleasable. I remember reading about it a while back and was intrigued by the casting of Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland and loved Liman's work in Edge of Tomorrow. Curious to hear your thoughts. Thanks." Yeah, this was a movie, Chaos Walking, that was supposed to come out, I believe, in March. It was supposed to come out in March. Now, I had then gotten word from a source inside the studio that said, this is going back earlier in this year, saying that, oh no, this movie's not releasing in March. And oh no, this movie is most likely not releasing in 2019 at all. And that is back, this is back in January, I believe, that I first heard word that this movie was an absolute train wreck. An absolute train wreck.
Wow.
The studio hated it. Almost everyone involved hated it. It was so bad they knew they had to completely rework it. However, they had major problems. Tom Holland was booked. Daisy Ridley is incredibly busy right now. She was booked, and there was just no way it was going to happen. Now, I honestly thought there was a chance here that we were going to hear that Lionsgate, which does not have the same coffers that a Universal does or that a Disney does, and they've already spent over $100 million on this picture. I'm not kidding. I'm usually the guy who says, look, finish the film because you got to recoup some of the losses. But I was actually starting to think they might just give up on this film. They might just trash it and give up on it and say, well, take it as a loss and move on. But they are currently right now, reshooting a lot. They are currently now Doug Liman, Tom Holland, no word on Daisy Ridley yet, but they are in the midst of reshooting it to try to make it quote unquote releasable, which is really too bad. Now, for those of you,
we're trying to make this just fine right now.
For those who don't know anything about it, this is the basic idea of what Chaos Walking is. Chaos Walking centers around a young man named Todd Hewitt who lives on an Earth-like colony planet where almost all women were killed off by a virus. Sounds a little bit like Y: The Last Man. Anyway, and the remaining men are plagued by a condition called the noise, where they can hear each other's thoughts played out in a series of images, words, and sounds. As the corrupt mayor of the colony tries to use this power to wipe out the indigenous alien race, now it's sounding a little bit like Avatar, Todd comes across a woman named Viola, played by Ridley, I almost said Ridley Scott, played by Daisy Ridley, who may hold the clue to saving everyone. Rob, let's start with you on this. Have you heard anything else or knew about this? I mean, at this point, do you think maybe they should just call it a day and fold it up, or do you think they're making the wise decision to keep motoring forward?
It's rough. I mean, if you've got, look, Doug Liman is a renowned director. He's a little hit and miss when it comes to the sci-fi world, but I loved Edge of Tomorrow. Hell, I loved Swingers. You know, he did Mr. and Mrs. Smith. He did the Firstborn film. I look at this and I just wonder, how does a disaster like this happen? I just don't understand. Like, executives watch, or they're supposed to watch dailies every day. I don't know how this could get to this point. And didn't Charlie Kaufman, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and
yep.
He wrote the script, which, I mean, I'm a huge Charlie Kaufman fan, even though he's a little off the wall. I just don't know how it happened. And if I don't know how do you make an unreleasable movie, like Greg had said, okay? Yeah. And then you're going to spend how many millions of dollars marketing it to hopefully recoup your money? They've probably put I don't even know what the budget is, but I'm sure it's deep into the five figures. I mean, is it 60 million, 70 million, 80 million? It could be, I don't know, dude.
They've already spent north of $100 million on this. And I don't know. Greg, is it, just from a fan's, well, obviously we're all on the outside looking in. We are not in the walls of Lionsgate right now, privy to all the conversations. But from where you're sitting, as as an industry analyst, as a film fan, where do you think this thing's at right now? How are you feeling about this?
I find this to be one of the weirdest stories ever because so many of every report I'm hearing are from, usually when I hear a movie's bad is from test screenings. And it seems like all the reports are coming from people who work within Lionsgate, who are like, this movie is not good, guys. And even like the CEO did come out saying we wouldn't be spending more money on it and reshooting it if we didn't think it could work. It's a risky decision. And I know that, Robert brought up a lot of Doug Liman films that are pretty great. Edge of Tomorrow was my favorite film that came out that year. I think there's I think there's two negatives here of in terms of with Doug Liman doing franchise work, because Edge of Tomorrow I don't think was expected to be a franchise because it was based off one graphic novel, and he did the movie Jumper, which was obviously trying to do cinematic world building, really set up a franchise hardcore. And that movie did not do. I personally enjoyed it for how cheesy it was, but I know it's not a
be careful. I was in Jumper, so be very, very careful.
I think Jumper was his best movie. It was a great film.
It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
So, he did Jumper. And I also think that if you're going to work with a screenwriter, because I think Doug Liman makes just great, entertaining films, but if you're going to work with a screenwriter like Charlie Kaufman, you need to have a director who can really work with a Charlie Kaufman screenplay. And I don't think the idea of Doug Liman and Charlie Kaufman, those two the types of sensibilities of those guys, I just don't feel like mesh well together, because one is very much about just an entertaining film, the other one could be very weird and strange, and I can't imagine that mesh working. I would like to see this film do well, but I think Lionsgate needs a hit on their hands. I mean, they had to can their Divergent series, which was a young adult adaptation. Hellboy wasn't a hit. I feel like they're just
at all.
No, not at all in any capacity. So I think they're on the freak out side of things. If anything, Disney's going to be purchasing them before Sony.
All right, guys. Well, listen, what do you think about all this news? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know. Are you as interested in this like you're interested in watching a train wreck? Are you interested in this? Does it intrigue? I don't know. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, let's move on now to the next main topic today. And the next main topic today comes to us from Mike, who writes, "Hey, John, since you saw Endgame, where does it rank on your list of favorite MCU films? Thanks." Okay, that's not a loaded question where you're asking it already expecting a certain answer, but okay. Let's play the game. Guys, Endgame is now out, and we're obviously not going to give away any spoilers here about anything in particular, but this is, again, I can't emphasize this enough. When Civil War came out, all I could do was drool over the fact that I think the greatest scene ever in comic book movie history, the airport scene, in Civil War happened. But this isn't a scene. This is a final hour, an entire third act of a film that I think is simply the finest third act in the history of the genre of comic book movies. Everything from the excitement, the emotion, all that kind of stuff rolled into one big glorious ball. I thought the first two acts were a little uneven, but the final act more than accommodates for all of that. And it's great. This is where I would say right now, I think for me, I have, out of the 22 film history now, understanding that the top 16 I think are all fantastic. There's only like 4 or 5 or 6 that I wouldn't say are fantastic. There's only 4 or 5 or 6 that I wouldn't say are fantastic. The top like 16, 17 are all fantastic. I think right now I've got Endgame at my number 5 spot in the MCU. Ahead of a lot of great MCU movies, but behind movies like the original Avengers. I think Infinity War is a little bit better. I think Civil War and Winter Soldier. Those are the ones that I still put ahead of it. But listen to that. Listen to that list of films. Winter Soldier, that a lot of people think might be the greatest comic book movie ever made. Civil War, which you'll find groups of people that think that might be the greatest comic book movie ever made. Infinity War, which people lost their minds over. And the one for me is still probably my favorite comic book movie of all time is The Avengers. But I do put it ahead of other great films like Guardians of the Galaxy. I put it ahead of great films like Doctor Strange. I put it ahead of other great films like The Black Panther. I put it ahead of other great films as that. So the MCU is, we take for granted how stacked the MCU is when you're looking at these 22 films. So I've got it right now comfortably in about my number 5 spot. That might move up or down 1 or 2 spots after another month or two, but that's where I put it for me. Now, I feel pretty confident that out of the 3 of us, I've got it ranked the lowest out of the 3 of us. But anyway, Greg, you just saw it. You know, you saw it more recently than me and Rob because you were walking into a screening as we were walking out.
I saw it like an hour after.
Yeah, you literally saw it right after us.
More fresh in my mind. Yeah.
So where would you put a film like Endgame in this incredibly huge, packed pantheon of MCU films? Where would you rank it right now?
You see, you guys saw it twice already, right? Both of you?
No,
guys?
I only saw it once.
You only saw it.
Yeah, I saw it twice. Rob saw it once, and we're all seeing it again tonight, I'm sure.
I do have tickets to go tonight. I can say the most confident answer I can give on this one is I would say it's my favorite Avengers movie, and that's including Captain America: Civil War. I would say that this is my favorite one in terms of the whole team up and the mashup, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's really hard to talk about the film without spoiling anything, and I promise I won't spoil anything. But I really did love the drama in the film, and I love the character development in this movie, and I love the tone and the pace of it all, and of course the action. So, yeah, I would say as an Avengers movie, it's my favorite. In terms of the MCU, I feel I don't know if Robert already knows his ranking for it. I feel like it's the kind of movie you need. There's so much that happens, you need to absorb a little bit more. It does need a rewatch in order to properly go, you know what, here's where I think it lands on the list of 22 films. I would say for sure it's somewhere in my top 5 right now. But the most confident answer I can give is favorite Avengers Assemble film so far.
Let me press you on this a little bit, Greg.
Sure.
While you're pressing, what films in the MCU right now are in the mix for you to maybe come above Endgame for you? What would be 1 or 2 of those films that that is in the race to maybe be ahead of Endgame for you?
I do really love ahead of Endgame, huh? You see, Endgame is the most fresh in my mind, but I have such a soft spot for the first Iron Man movie. I rarely hear anyone put that up there, but I watched that before I even read any Marvel comics, and that one got me into reading a lot of Marvel comics. So I don't know if Iron Man would be above there,
but it's in the race for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an on the spot question. I'm really not sure. You know, I'm really not sure.
On the spot question. I sent the question to you last night, buddy.
I love Guardians of the Galaxy a lot too.
Yeah, that's another fan favorite.
Guardians of the Galaxy would probably be up as a contender. The thing is, Endgame is such a heavy film, and I do really care a lot about just being entertained. And I wonder how often I could handle the weight of a movie like Endgame. On terms of rewatchability, and I feel like with ranking something like this, I need to know how I feel on a rewatch.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because what you just said reminds me a lot of Ray, who does a lot of the graphics here. Ray, we went to go see Infinity War, and he watched it once, absolutely loved it, but couldn't watch it again. Because of the same kind, he was like, it was so heavy for him that he actually skipped. He didn't go watch another comic book movie for a while. Like, he just absolutely loved it, but couldn't do that. But anyway, Rob, let's put you on the spot now. If you had to right now, and granted, you've also only seen the film once, and obviously this could change over time as we marinate on it more up or down. But right now, where are you thinking this thing ranks for you in the pantheon of the MCU films?
Well, you know, I have to sort of preface, like with Greg, I really loved the first part of this movie. It's a science fiction movie that's dealing with a calamity and dealing with how these characters are adjusting and coming to grips with what's happened. And it's unlike any superhero movie that we've ever seen before, because they're not being super heroic. I mean, they're dealing with what does it mean to be defeated. And that's what happened in Avengers Infinity War. And we've never really seen that before. This movie couldn't exist. I see the 4 Avengers movies sort of as their own thing. And I got to go back and agree with Greg. The first Iron Man movie is small. It basically ends with a battle between two guys over the heart and soul of their company, over their mission, about what they're doing in life. It's a very personal story. And you go back and you watch the first Iron Man is a very fine film. It's before there was the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then we get to movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, which also exists in its own world. Yes, it joined it's tied to it, but as a movie, the story of Peter Quill and where it goes and the formation of the Guardians and how they discover this family unit that they all needed, that's like a movie unto itself. It's a different sort of a film. And the Avengers movies are you're putting all of these characters together that wouldn't exist without their individual movies up front.
Right.
So I think that stacking these movies and saying which movie do you like best in all 22 movies is a bit unfair, because they're different types of movies. And I think the individual Marvel films might be better movies, but as an experience and as a piece of blockbuster entertainment, I would say the 4 Avengers movies together are 4 of the most successful, big budget, sprawling, superhero, fantasy, sci-fi movies that have ever been made in any franchise anywhere. And I think that Endgame is such a departure from the first 3, at least, especially for those first 2 hours. It's a different, what I loved about Endgame is it was very different than any of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies we've ever seen. Like Greg said, I love the drama of it. This movie works because these characters, you love them and they're all hurting. And we're hurting as the audience. And it's like, we're moving through this journey with them, and it goes for our emotions first. And that was something the Marvel Cinematic Universe couldn't and didn't do because they weren't afforded that opportunity. And I think they went all in. And from that opening scene on, I was like, oh my God, my heart is in this movie from the beginning, man. And I was astonished by that. And I think it's a different experience, and it's a great experience.
All right, guys. Well, listen, for those of you, because I know a lot of our international friends, a lot of you guys have had a chance to watch it already. Where would you right now maybe rank Endgame in this pantheon, this incredibly stacked pantheon of MCU films? Jump on in the comments section and let me know what you think. All right, we got to keep moving here, guys. We're running out of time. Moving on to the next main topic today. And the next main topic today comes to us from our friend Steve Calderon, who writes, "Hey, John. Godzilla vs. Kong recently wrapped filming, and I noticed that Vera Farmiga, Ken Watanabe, and Sally Hawkins are not returning with their King of the Monsters co-stars, Millie Bobby Brown and Kyle Chandler, for the movie. In the upcoming Godzilla sequel, Farmiga plays the mother and ex-wife to Brown and Chandler characters, while Watanabe and Hawkins reprise their roles from the 2014 movie. Could this mean that their characters will probably be killed off?" All right, so we have a situation where we have a number of cast members that are in this upcoming Godzilla King of the Monsters. Some are returning for Kong versus Godzilla. Some are not. Rob, let me ask you point blank. Does the fact that some characters are not returning for Kong versus Godzilla definitively mean to you in your head that means those characters not returning get killed off in this movie? What do you think?
Well, I don't know if it definitively says that, but Godzilla got to eat. You know, I mean, I mean,
I'm on the good guy's side, but I'm going to eat
I
these.
would say that there's going to be some casualties in Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, look, Ken Watanabe always classes up the joint. I love that guy. But you know, he talks a lot of philosophy in those movies, so maybe somebody's just tired of listening to it, and he becomes Ghidorah food. I don't know.
Greg, do you think that that this means that those characters not returning are is it a spoiler? Does it mean they're going to die in this movie?
The funny thing about this, when I saw the trailers for, especially the final trailer, I really feel like Millie Bobby Brown in the film, even though she's the daughter of Kyle Chandler and Vera Farmiga, so many of the scenes that we see her in are these real heavy emotionally staked scenes, and she's by herself, she's isolated.
Yeah.
So it just seems like that she's I got the impression already that at least Vera Farmiga is going to die. I already got that impression because all these crazy ass moments that are happening in the trailer. I'm like, how come this little girl's by herself this entire time? So to me, it's not much of a surprise to hear that. Yeah, exactly. And it also seems to showcase that she might. I feel like there's a very more than the fact that she's in Stranger Things. I feel like there's a very specific reason they cast her, because the trailers kind of give this impression that Millie Bobby Brown has sort of a connection with some of these Titans, and I feel like she'll be a necessary character to bring back. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, most of us aren't showing up for the human characters in this film. So I think they're only going to rely on who are the human characters we need to bring back. So I don't think it's a definitive spoiler. But in terms of who might die, I always got the impression that at least Vera Farmiga is going to die. It just always seemed that way to me.
Sure, but I agree with you, but I don't think it means, I don't think them not being in the next movie means that they get killed off, because how many times, look at Mission Impossible films. Tons of times characters are in one film and then they're not in the next, but that doesn't mean their characters died in that first film. Hell, we were just talking about the MCU, right? There are characters there. Lady Sif is there. And then the next couple of movies, you just don't see her around. Right. Jane was there, and then you just hear, Thor at some point. Jane and I aren't seeing each other anymore in Civil War, wherever, whatever line he said that. We see this in movies all the time.
Sure.
Now, I do agree with you. I think Vera Farmiga's character, I do get the impression she's probably going to get offed. I do, but all these other characters, they don't appear in the next one. Hey, it's a big world. And this movie's about Godzilla and King Kong. So they may appear later on. They may not appear again. Look, we were just talking about James Bond, about how Jeffrey Wright, who hasn't appeared since Quantum of Solace, right? So he wasn't in the next film, but he's coming back now. So just because they're not there, I don't believe necessarily means that it's a spoiler, and that automatically means these characters are getting killed off. So let's go into it, and don't worry about it. I don't think the casting list is a spoiler in any way, shape, or form. All right, let's get on now to the final main topic of the day before we get over to the live questions. And our final main topic of the day comes us from Joseph J. Dennis, who writes, Titanic held the #1 spot for 15 weeks at the box office in 1998 till it got beat up by Lost in Space. How long do you suspect Endgame to hold the spot? Could it possibly hold the mark until Far From Home? I'm not even sure when Toy Story drops. Guys, we've got this little movie opening up tonight called Avengers Endgame. I'm going to go out on a limb. And some of you might think I'm crazy, but I believe the numbers and the facts back me up. You can say I'm crazy all you want, but I'm going to tell you right now, Avengers Endgame is going to be the #1 movie at the box office this weekend. I know that's a bold prediction. I know some of you won't agree, but that's fine. I'm going to go out there and say it's going to be #1. So the question becomes, how long? You're talking about some films like 15-week stretch, all that kind of stuff. We just had Captain Marvel did hold for 3 or 4 weeks long. How long will Avengers Endgame hold that #1 spot? Rob, let's put you on the hot seat first. How long do you think we're going to see Endgame hold that #1 spot?
We're going into May, man, and there's a lot of big movies opening.
Yeah.
I think Avengers Endgame, as good as it is, and as many times I think people are going to go back and see it, I think even getting past 5 weeks at #1 is a stretch. We're going into a big summer movie season. There's a lot of, we're just talking about Godzilla. That opens, May 31st? I don't think movies like John Wick 3 are going to challenge Endgame, of course. And I haven't looked, I don't have the actual release schedule in front of me, but, I'd give it 5 weeks tops. It is a 3-hour movie. It's going to be very front-loaded in terms of how much money it makes. But then again, I do believe the movie is so satisfying that people are going to keep going back and seeing it. And then the people that don't see it are going to watch Infinity War because they want to know what all the hype's about, and they don't want to FOMO. They want to be part of it all, and they're going to go see it. So I think it's going to have a very strong box office through May, but I can't see it lasting 6 weeks or 8 weeks.
Greg, what do you think? How long does Endgame hold that #1 spot?
Dennis Quaid's The Intruder will knock it out next week for sure.
Always trust Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, you never underestimate that guy. First off, I think to compare it to like the Titanic run is very different, because Titanic came out like a week before Christmas, and in that, so you're not really leading into any competition. 1998 or 97 box office was very, very different back then in terms of what they had coming out. And like Rob said, there's so many big movies coming out. For sure, next week it'll keep number one. To me, it's more of a question mark if Detective Pikachu has a chance of beating it out, because a lot of times when it comes to box office predictions for me, I actually factor in how the trailers on YouTube perform, because the first trailer for Detective Pikachu was at 60 million views, and then the last one was at like 25 million. So it shows like a drop off in interest. But then, you also got Aladdin coming out, and then you have Godzilla a week after Aladdin. So for me, it's like it's either going to be number one for 3 weekends or 5 weekends, because there's a gap there. If it beats out Detective Pikachu, then it's going to be number one for 5 weekends. But I can't see it going more than 5 weeks at most, because you're going up against Aladdin and Godzilla later on. I think it'll be in the top 5. I think if it wants to compare to Titanic, I think it could be in the top 5 for perhaps like 10 to 15 weeks, though.
Oh, like look how long that Captain Marvel. I mean, Captain Marvel dropped out of the top 5 and just jumped back up into the top 5. Now I'm sure Endgame's going to knock it out of the top 5. I'll tell you what. I believe Endgame is going to be the number one film at the box office for only 2 weekends.
Yeah, that's my.
I believe only 2 weekends, and here's why. This is a little thing I call infinity math. All right, here's some infinity math, guys. Let's go and look at Infinity War, okay? We go back last year to Infinity War. Infinity War opened to $257 million. Now remember, the more people that go opening weekend, the more likely you're going to have a plus 50%, maybe even a 60% drop, because everybody's already gone to see it. So that kind of plays into it. Infinity War had a 55% second weekend drop-off and had a 45% drop-off from week 2 to week 3. All right. Let's take that math. Now, a lot of people are saying that we're going to see Endgame open anywhere between 260, which is the low end, which already beats the opening weekend box office record, by the way, anyway between 260 and 300 million. So let's split the difference there in the middle. Let's say Avengers Endgame opens to $280 million, which would destroy the opening weekend box office, just destroy it. If it follows the pattern of a 55% drop, and by the way, I think it's going to take larger than a 55% drop going into week 2, because so many people, like you said, Rob, it's so front-ended. But let's say it follows the same pattern. 55% drop on going into its second weekend. That means it's going to make $154 million on its second weekend, okay? Now, if it continues to follow suit and only takes a 45% drop from weekend 2 to weekend 3, that means it's going to come in at around 69.3. Now, all these numbers are give and take a little bit, but just for a general idea. So you're looking at a third weekend for Avengers Endgame, if it holds up that well, of making around $69 million in its third weekend. Well, what opens in its third weekend? Detective Pikachu. This means that Detective Pikachu would only, as if $70 million is some tiny number, but that Detective Pikachu would need to make $70 million opening weekend to take the number one spot. With all the positive reviews for Detective Pikachu now flooding out, with all the word of mouth, with the quality of the trailers, there are speculations right now that Detective Pikachu could open anywhere between $60 and $85 million. I believe that the math is pointing us towards Detective Pikachu taking the number one spot that weekend with $70+ million, and Endgame coming in slightly south of that. Therefore, I believe Endgame is only going to be number one for 2 weeks in a row. However, if it does, let's say Pikachu underperforms a little bit. Let's say Pikachu makes $60 million opening weekend and Infinity War manages to hold on the top spot. Well, then at most, Infinity War will have 4 weeks at number one, because on the 5th weekend, Aladdin opens. And by that 5th weekend, guys, Infinity War or Endgame is going to be down to making about, I don't know, 30 million that weekend on its 5th weekend, 30, 35. Aladdin is certainly going to eclipse that. So I believe it's going to be 2 weeks at number one, but at the very most, it's going to be 4. So that's kind of how I see it. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I love that math. I mean, you can't argue with that.
It's good math.
I mean, then again, the one thing about the math is that these numbers could get blown out. Like, what happens if Endgame comes in and debuts at $325 million? Well, now it throws that a little bit into doubt, right? So a lot will have to do what the final number is there. But I feel pretty. I'm going to say 2 weekends, but at most 4. I can't see it being number 1 the weekend that Aladdin opens.
No,
I mean it can't, right?
No, well, I mean, because what you did was you mathematically broke down pretty much what I was saying, was that if it beats out Detective Pikachu, that it's for sure going to be 4 weeks, because there's a 2-week gap between Detective Pikachu and Aladdin. But by the time you get to Aladdin, there's no way. I can't imagine Endgame will be above in that opening compared to Aladdin.
Yeah, and also I think that one of the things that Greg had responded to and that I was talking about is the fact that this movie has this drama component. And even critics that I've been reading for a long time that are absolutely curmudgeonly, like Jeff Wells, responded to this movie, and he doesn't like comic book films at all. Mm-hmm. I think this movie might perform differently than previous Avengers movies, at least previous to Infinity War, because it does have so much drama in the front of the film. And I think people, especially people who poo-poo comic book movies or are going to take their kids or whatever, might be surprised. So it could drive the box office longer than we've seen in previous comic book movies, especially previous Avengers films, because there is so much human drama and pathos, which is something that's new to this genre.
All right. Well, guys, what's that, Greg?
Do you think it deters, though, from families going to go watch this movie? Because I could still see families going to check out Infinity War a couple of times, but I mean, I don't want to spoil anything. It's just like I said, there's so much more dramatic.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I agree, but I believe that's canceled out. Like, I think the math maybe then still holds, because I think a lot of families went to Infinity War, and even with the ending that it had, I think a lot of families went over to Infinity War. So I think that might cancel this out, but it's going to be interesting to see. I just can't see any way possible. Like, Aladdin minimum is going to make 70 million opening weekend. And I just don't see any mathematical possibility that Endgame is still making 70 million on its 5th weekend. Like, that would be just unheard of. So I just can't see that happening. But do either of you guys think there's any chance that it beats Aladdin on Aladdin's opening weekend on its 5th weekend?
No.
Slim. Very slim.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, guys, that will do it for our main topics of the day. And we've had a whole hell of a lot of live questions come in. So to get through these live questions as fast as we can, we're going to say goodbye to Robert Meyer, Burnett, and Greg Alba right now, just so we can get through these questions as quick as we can. We've run a little bit over time today, I know, but hey, when you got guys like Greg Alba joining you got to take a little bit more time. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Mr. Robert Meyer, Burnett, for being here. Robert, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter, Burnett RM. Find me on Instagram at RM Burnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnettwork, and its adjacent website, theburnettwork.net.
And of course, so happy to have Mr. Greg Alba joining us here again today with me and Rob. Greg, it's awesome having you on. Where can people find you online?
At the Greg Alba on Instagram and Twitter, or on my last John Campea appearance at RM Burnett. Also at The Real Rejects on YouTube. Our Avengers Endgame complete non-spoiler review went up, and there's actually a 3-minute opening sketch that we shot, and it's been getting a lot of praise. So I'd love it if you guys could go check it out, because we worked our asses off on that one.
Make sure you guys check that out. And also, Robert and I, we've got a little video coming up on Sundays. Of course, it is our open spoiler discussion, live spoiler discussion of Avengers Endgame. We're going to start that at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with Rob and me.
It's going to be so long.
Yeah, we're expecting to go about 5 hours. We're expecting to go 5 hours. We're going to have to cut it off so we can go and watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And by the way, guys, make sure you join us for our Game of Thrones post show as well, because Robert's going to be joining me and Kaori this weekend as well. So we're really excited about that. Guys, I am honored to be in your presence. Thank you so much for joining me, both you guys, and I will talk to you guys a little bit later.
You too, Greg.
Thank you. Right. I respect the hell out of you, Robert.
Back.
All right, guys, with that stuff and down, how great are those two guys? Anyway, with that stuff down and out of the way, let's dive in now to our live questions. You guys have been firing live questions. Now, I'm going to let you guys know, too, there was a glitch on YouTube this morning, and for whatever reason, it created duplicate live events, and some people put in some super chat questions on that duplicate. I want to make sure those get answered. So I'm going to answer those duplicate questions first, all right? So here we go. Kyle Starr wrote, Rob, can you rate your Avengers movies? Well, we kind of got into that in the topic. Rob didn't really feel right now like he could rate them per se, so give him a few more viewings and he'll get around to that. Jimmy John writes, hello, John. Super excited to see Endgame tonight. Everybody's excited to see Endgame tonight, Jimmy John. I'm glad you're going to be able to see it now. Luis Blanco writes, in the altered words of Doctor Strange, we as a collective, North America fandom, are in the Endgame now. P.S. I have survived all the spoilers. Good on you, Luis. I hope you guys have a great time tonight. And you're right, even now in North America, it opened worldwide earlier. It's in North America today. We're all in the Endgame now. McDavid deserves better. Game of Thrones versus Walking Dead is TV's equivalent to the MCU versus DCEU. One is the class of its respective medium, while the other, to put it lightly, is mixed. I disagree with that, McDavid, because Walking Dead, maybe not right now, but Walking Dead has been incredibly widely praised and beloved and a ratings giant and all that kind of stuff. And I gotta say, McDavid, I disagree with you. Now, do I prefer Game of Thrones over Walking Dead? Yes, I do. But to say it's that equivalent, I gotta say I disagree with you. But I'm sure you're gonna find others who do agree with you as well. Matt Sifjada writes, great peak of MCU. Now begins the downfall? Nah, I don't think so. Because even to me, Endgame isn't the peak of the MCU. I think there are a couple of MCU films that are even as good as Endgame is. I think there's a couple of other MCU films that are even better. So I don't believe this is the peak of the MCU. And I've been having people say forever, after a great MCU movie comes out, okay, now the downfall starts. And it's never happened. So no, I don't believe, because we're about to get Spider-Man Far From Home, so I don't believe the downfall starts now. Jeff Crow writes, I'm surprised no one mentioned The Mask in Best Movie, Worst Movie. Yeah, we talked about best and worst movies. Our latest episode is best superhero movies pre the year 2000. So, by the way, we forgot to mention this earlier. Our newest episode of Best Movie, Worst Movie, it is now up and available. Guys, make sure you find our podcast, me, Robert Meyer, Burnett, and of course, Olympic gold medalist Cody Miller. Best Movie, Worst Movie. The newest topic of this week's episode is best super and worst superhero movies pre-2000. Go and check that out. Jeff Crow writes, dishonorable mentions, Batman and Robin and the George Lucas classic Howard the Duck. I think those belong on that list, Jeff. Well done. All right, Jack Humphreys writes, saw Endgame, really liked it. There were some surprises, but my enjoyment was still a little tainted by spoilers I saw. Still had a good time. Yeah, and it is unfortunate that there are such idiots in the world that just wanted to go around and spoil things for people, and I'm sorry you lost some of your experience for that, but I'm glad you still had a good time overall. Okay, and the last one before we get to our current live questions comes from Tacky75, who writes, I saw it and it felt like the best sex of my life. Well, Tacky, some might suggest you're doing sex wrong, but it is an incredible orgasmic experience, and I'm glad you had a good time. Okay, now let's get to the proper version of the live shows, live questions that you guys have been sending in. Raven writes, good morning. Endgame day for me. Endgame day for so many people in North America. A lot of you guys who are our international friends, have already had the opportunity to see it. But today is the day that people in North America get to go see it today, and everybody is just jumping up and down about it. All right, Raven writes, random question. Which trilogy fell apart worse in your opinion? RoboCop or Beverly Hills Cop? Good morning, Ashley. You look quite fetching today. Well, of course, Ashley is not here right now. But good try, Raven. I would say RoboCop because Beverly Hills Cop, to me, while there was a declining quality, it always kept its identity, like its DNA. RoboCop, not so much. So I'm going to go with RoboCop on that one. Jim Boyers writes, John, your hatred of Endgame is even better than you promised. Your check is in the mail. Love always, your bosses at Warner Brothers and DC. P.S. Rob is fired. It's too bad. It was good while it lasted getting those paychecks from Warner Brothers. Tyler Yeats writes, A Destiny arrives all the same. Seeing Endgame at 8 o'clock tonight. Cannot wait. Watched Infinity War again last night. Got an Iron Man arc reactor shirt for it. Nice. You guys see, just when I do my movie reviews, I like to get shirts. Like I got my Shazam outfit. I got my Captain Marvel outfit. I got my Avengers Endgame outfit. I just love getting... I don't know why, it's stupid, I know, but I love getting stuff like that for new movies that are coming out, particularly movies I'm looking forward to. I guess I can take my headphones off now. Ooh, the ears start to get warm. The ears start to get a bit warm. Anyway, I love doing that stuff, and I'm glad you're hyped up for it yourself, Tyler. Cannot wait. It's Endgame Day. Make sure you join us on Sunday for our spoiler discussion. Turtle Reviews writes, just woke up feeling like crap, but still watching Endgame tonight. Hashtag whatever it takes. Yeah, no, but Turtle, all honesty, seriously, if you feel like you're quite sick to the point that you feel you're contagious, do your fellow film fans a favor. Take one for the team, but do your fellow film fans a favor and maybe wait on going to see Endgame. Because, like, honestly, I hate going to a movie theater. And fortunately, it's very rarely happened to me. But going to a movie theater and some dude beside me is like sniffling and his nose is running and his like the whole movie. And it's like, I can feel myself getting sick sitting next to that guy. So make sure you're good to go, Turtle. Don't put your other fellow film fans at risk of getting sick too, my friend. All right. Yellow CT writes, first time super chat. Thank you, Yellow CT. Almost made it to Endgame tonight, spoiler free. And then my troll cousin posts the entire plot in a series of posts on Facebook. Well, Yellow, if your cousin started putting up a series of posts, could one not say, then maybe it's your fault for keep reading? Like, at some point, do you just not, oh, there's the latest post from my cousin Barry, don't read it. Like if it was a series of posts, like maybe at some point you should have turned away from Facebook. But hey, listen, believe me, spoilered or not, I think you're going to go in and enjoy this film, particularly the last hour. Sam Fisher writes, your friend Aaron was on a recent episode of NCIS. Yes, somebody else wrote that in. It is crazy. Aaron Cummings, who has been on this show before, she's a dear friend of mine. She's constantly, sometimes I know about the show she's about to appear in, and then sometimes she's in a show and it's like, wait a minute, what? Like, I remember I was watching The Blacklist. I love The Blacklist. And all of a sudden there's Aaron as the featured guest that week. I'm like giving Aaron a call. How did I not know you were on Blacklist? And then I had no idea she was on NCIS right now. And then I've got a bunch of people writing me and saying she's on that. I was just texting with her yesterday too. Ben Hayusa writes, so them, Men in Black and 21 Bridges trailers show what Thor, Valkyrie, and T'Challa have been doing outside their home area after Endgame. Can't wait for Endgame. You know what? I haven't seen the 21 Bridges trailer yet. As a matter of fact, it was just before we started the show that I noticed that trailer had dropped, but it was too late for me. Like, we were in the process of getting the show started. I haven't had a chance to see it. That's, of course, with Chadwick Boseman, who, of course, plays Black Panther. I'm very intrigued. As soon as this show's over, I'm going to be going to watch that because I'm really intrigued to watch it. But it is kind of neat that it's a strategic play that you have a trailer with Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson and a trailer with Chadwick Boseman dropping on the day that Avengers Endgame is hitting theaters. That's not coincidence. That's definitely strategic planning, Ben. You're right on that. All right, Raven writes, what if they announced a remake of Three Amigos? Would you be interested or apprehensive? Can't imagine anyone being able to replace the original cast. Yeah, guys, the Three Amigos, Steve Martin, Martin Short, Chevy Chase, that movie. You know, me and a bunch of my buddies used to play Risk every week, and almost, I can't tell you how many times while playing Risk, we just put in Three Amigos. My little buttercup has the sweetest smile. Dear little buttercup, won't you stay a while? You and I can settle down in a cottage built for two. Oh my, I could sing all the songs. I could sing all the songs from Three Amigos. If they were to announce a remake, I'd be excited. I think it would be really interesting to see, even if that kind of humor would work today the way it worked back then. You know, because humor in films has changed. And so, number one, I'd be super interested to see who they cast. I think I'd be excited. Doesn't mean the movie would be any good, but I think initially I'd be kind of excited, Raven. All right, or Raven, I should say. All right, Ben Davis writes, go Canes, thrilling Game 7 last night, by the way. Double overtime. Game 7, double overtime, Hurricane score. It was pretty thrilling. They beat the defending champions. Yeah, but the Capitals were not the same Capitals from last year. We all knew it. But anyway, the defending champions last night to advance the NHL playoffs. As a North Carolina kid, I am so excited. It was a thrill. I mean, that's what sports is all about, right? Game 7, overtime, next goal takes it all. It was pretty exciting stuff. Evil Eye writes, which movie is better, Man of Steel or Endgame? Not going to play that game. Not going to go into that. Man of Steel to me is a top 10 greatest comic book movie of all time. I need to marinate on Endgame a little bit more. One of the things I've learned is that don't try comparing or ranking, like even with our MCU ranking either. Just because somebody asked for a main question, I put it in number 5, but I said that could go up or down after I marinate on it a little while. So I'm not going to do a comparison like that one. Stephen Rondelone writes, I remember seeing Iron Man 1 for my 10th birthday. Wow. And here we are 11 years later, turning 21 in 2 weeks, witnessing the end of these characters that I've grown up with tonight, and I can't freaking wait. Well, I mean, you're not seeing the end of the characters, but it is they're calling the end of what they're now calling the Infinity Saga. And it really does, they do a really good job. I've said this in the review. They do a good job of feeling like they're wrapping up the story that was, you know what I mean? And I feel like they did a really good job of that. And dude, it is amazing when you think of it in those terms. Like, this has been around since you were 10. Like, I got Supernatural ending next season. It's going to have been around 15 years. And it's just weird when you got these film franchises or television franchise where you're like, I have even a hard time remembering a time in my life when this film franchise or this television series wasn't a part of my life. It's kind of crazy like that, Steven. So, but I'll tell you what, that only adds to the satisfaction of the movie, I think. So I think you're going to be really, really happy with that, Steven. Anyway, thanks for sharing that, man. That's a really cool story. All right. Mr. 47 writes, the day has arrived. Hashtag Thanos copter. Yes. If you guys have not seen, we've talked about it on the show before, look it up. The Thanos copter infamy. Does the Thanos copter make an appearance in Endgame? I'm not going to tell you because that would be a spoiler. All I'm going to say is keep your eyes open. All right. J Meister 25 writes, projections say Endgame will make 120 million on Thursday alone. That's insane. Avatar is about to get some competition. This can't be real life. I think it's going to blow away the opening weekend box office record. I still don't think that this movie will make all the movie that Infinity War made and make $750 million more on top of that. I just don't see that as a possibility. I think it will pass Infinity War. I think it will pass Star Wars The Force Awakens. I think it will pass Titanic. But I still don't think it's even conceivable that it'll catch Avatar. Because again, that's saying it'll make all the money that Infinity War made and make $750 million more on top of that. I just don't see it happening. But I shouldn't say it's impossible. It's not impossible. It's not. It's possible. I just don't see it happening, but wouldn't that be something if it did? Oh my goodness. Ahmad Ismail writes, John, it happened. Some douchebags tweeted out the ending for Endgame. Although I only read 2 words from it, it still gave away something huge. I'm devastated. Yeah, it sucks. You got to be so careful about who you follow and what you allow into your feed. And going into the final days, you got to be so careful on social media, and that sucks. But you know what? All I tell people is this. Going into Titanic, you knew that Titanic sank at the end, and we still enjoyed the movie. So don't worry about it. Go in, enjoy the film. It sucks that you got the spoiler, but you know what? Go in and enjoy the movie nonetheless. Raven writes, long-time listener, first-time commenter. So, John, what's your take on Trump's decision to, nah, just kidding. Which Batmobile is your favorite? Keaton's, Bale's, Affleck's, West's, Clooney's, yuck. I'm actually going to go with Bale's. I love the Tumbler. I love the Tumbler. Now, it's very different. It really is a combat vehicle as opposed to what the Batmobile has traditionally been. I mean, the Batmobile's always had combat capabilities, but it's never just definitively been a combat vehicle. The Tumbler was a definitive combat vehicle. And I know it's very different from the traditional Batmobile, but yeah, I think that one to me is great. I like the one that Affleck used. I like the Keaton, the original Michael Keaton one. I thought that was great too. But that Tumbler, from the design, the functionality of it, I mean, especially the way that it shoots out a bat motorcycle out of the front nose of it. There's just a lot of things about it I really dug that worked for me on a lot of different levels. So for me, Raven, I'm going to say Christian Bale's. I'm going to go Christian Bale's on that. All right, James L.H. writes, hey, John, had my midnight Endgame screening in Cineworld. So many things to talk about. Look forward to Sunday. Also, I know you have AMC and I use Cineworld Pass. This is where the benefits really kick in. And it's kind of true. This is a good time to be an AMC member, an AMC A-list member, or if you live in the UK, a Cineworld member. I'm glad you had your opportunity to watch it, James. It sounds like you had a good time, which is always great. But yeah, man, it's funny. My buddy sent me, let me take a look to see if I can even bring this up. I want to make sure I don't give away any of his private information. And no, it doesn't look like any of his private information's on this. So I'm gonna slip this in here. My buddy sent me a screenshot last night. I said, hey, dude, like, when are you going to go see Endgame, right? And he just instantly took a screenshot of his phone. He took a screenshot of his phone because I'm like, hey, dude, when are you going to go see Endgame? Bang. He sends me, this is from his AMC A-list. So he's got all of his slots for AMC A-list, James, already sectioned out. So this is a great example, James, of what you were just saying about this is a movie like this is where it really comes into play, and it really, really does. Thanks for sharing that, James. All right. Troy Strauss writes, T-minus 8 hours, 34 hours and 81 hours, Endgame 3 times. Enjoy yourself, my man. I think you're going to have a good time. Plan out your bathroom breaks accordingly. Charlie Gray writes, watching Endgame Monday, will catch spoiler show after that. My local AMC Independence is remodeling and getting assigned seating. That's awesome. That is awesome. Another movie theater moving out of the dark ages and getting pre-assigned seating. It is the only way to do movies. Get out of the dark ages. Get out of this savage way of doing this whole thing about our theaters. Oh, great, I bought my movie ticket. Where's my seat? Oh, you got to get there like sheep and then rush into the theater as fast as you can to hopefully grab a good one. Are you kidding me? I'm paying you money for a ticket. I don't get to know where my seat is. No, it's far more fun to act like a bunch of sheep and go blah and then run into the theater and maybe hope you get one and fight over seats. It's stupid. It's a stupid way of doing things, and it's stupid it's taken us this long to get around to it. Anyway, Charlie, have a great time, my friend. All right, where are we at here? Cameron Wiskovich writes, if Endgame was released later in May, it'd be the second time the Avengers fought Godzilla. Please get that reference. Sorry, it's gone over my head. Everybody in the chat board can probably figure it out, but that one goes. Sorry about that, Cameron. Anyway, Mac Quack writes, saw one interesting theory about the Night King's spiral symbol. Ooh, that it refers to the Wirewood 3 and that the burning symbol in the last episode was a foreshadowing of how to kill him by burning the 3 down thoughts. Well, here's the thing, Mac Quack. I have always been very upfront about this. I am not the hardest of hardcore Game of Thrones fans. I enjoy the show, but I am not a hardcore Game of Thrones fan. I very much enjoy watching it. I'm having a great time this season, and we talk about our experiences after it, but I have not read the books. I don't know all the lore. I don't know any of that kind of stuff. So honestly, it's all Greek to me. This is like me talking to a more casual Star Wars fan about the ancient Liban holocron. If I, out of the Star Wars, remember the ancient Liban holocron? And the people are going to, casual Star Wars fans are going to look at me, even if they love Star Wars, they're going to look at me and go, what the hell are you talking about? That is a little bit foreign to me. So I cannot comment on that because I don't even know what any of that really is. Okay. I mean, I know who the Night King is. I don't know what about the circle thing, but other than that, I just don't know. Christopher Benson, maybe you guys in the comments section, throw in your theories. Let Mac know what you think about what he just said for those of you who are more invested in it and know the lore a little bit more. Okay, Christopher Benson writes, hands, lightning in my hands, lightning in my hands, lightning in my hands. Shazam is awesome. Mark Strong was born to... I love Shazam. I am an unapologetic, complete... evangelist for Shazam. I love that movie. Absolutely love. Although, does he say lightning in my hands? Or does he say lightning hands? He goes, hands, lightning hands. Or maybe he says lightning in my hands. Lightning in my hands. Oh, maybe he says that too. I can't remember. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you could have got a better guy to play that role than Mark Strong as well. I love seeing Mark Strong in movies, just about any movie, but I particularly love seeing him in Shazam, and I adore that movie. I know not everybody feels the same way about it I do, and that's cool, but I think that movie's freaking spectacular. All right. Maximum Effort 44T writes, just got the Neo hot toy and it's awesome. I have seen images of that Neo hot toy and oh my God, it is awesome. Again, for me, I got to be careful because when I start buying hot toys, I just start buying them. Like I had no hot toys and then all of a sudden with the snap of the fingers, I had 4 and I'm like, I got to stop. And I stopped a couple years ago because man, if I buy more, I'm just going to get to it. And that's an expensive habit, but I'm a little bit jealous, Maximum. I'm a little bit jealous because that one's awesome. CJ Adams writes, name 2 redeeming qualities of Attack of the Clones. I can't sit here and do an analysis off the top of my head. I certainly think some of the big battle at the end when the Jedi all showed up and they're battling the Separatist army, there's some cool stuff in there. So that's one. I also kind of liked the stuff with the mom, with Shmi. Some of that's okay. I'm sure I can come up with more redeeming qualities if I thought about it, but off the top of my head, I would need to sit down and actually really think about it, CJ. Dan M. writes, new Lucifer trailer is amazing. May the 8th. Oh, God, I'm so excited for this. I can't, it's hard for me to even put into words, Dan, how excited I am for Lucifer to return. So pumped. Dimsum05 writes, apologies, Miss Whalen, but this is horseshit. My 12-year-old nephew just got the movie spoiled to him this morning. Premiere day at school. He is a sobbing mess and I am furious. Jesus, I mean, hey, it is what it is, man. And the experience that your nephew is having, Dim Sum, is an experience that millions of film fans have had. And we've had other people in this chat board today. I'm not saying that makes it okay. I'm not saying we shouldn't be upset about it. We should be upset about it. But we knew it was happening, right? And, kids talk. And kids probably don't even, probably the kids who told your 12-year nephew don't even realize the ramifications of spoiling something. Like, oh my gosh, I heard that Thor does this and that Captain America does that and that Captain Marvel does this. And they probably don't even realize what they're doing. But yeah, it's been one of the most absolute, it's really a shame that I got out there. But again, I say this all the time, guys, in a day and age when everybody walks around with an advanced computing global communications audio and video device, it's tricky to avoid spoilers completely, and it really sucks that your nephew had that experience, man. My condolences on that. First world problems, but that does really suck. All right. Raven writes, answer to CJ, the wizard battle with Dooku and Yoda before the lightsabers. That was interesting. And Jar Jar's drastically decreased role and dialogue. Yeah, I would take a big thumbs up on that as well, Raven. Good answer, man. All right, Christopher Brickner writes, John, 38 movies have made $1 billion, and Disney has 19 of those 38 films. 21 films if you count Fox. That is amazing. Oh, it is amazing. It kind of means that they've become the king of the big blockbusters. And it's true. But notice, it's not like 35 of the 38. Other studios are making big blockbuster billion-dollar films. It's not just Fox, or not just Disney, I should say. So actually, I think some people might look at that list and be surprised that Disney only has 19 of them as opposed to a little bit more. But that is an interesting number, Christopher. All right, Christopher follows up. I'm so glad Stevie Eiserman is back with the Wings. I'm glad he's back too. Stevie Y, one of the greatest ambassadors for the sport ever, one of my all-time favorite hockey players. Then he was GM of Team Canada when they went and got the gold medal at the Olympics. He's the one who put the team together. It's really good to see him back with Detroit. Played his entire career with Detroit. It's good to see him back there. Ghostface 1999 writes, I have the best wife in the world. I will watch Endgame this weekend while she takes care of our 5-month-old daughter, babysitter MIA. Dude, you're pretty lucky. You're pretty lucky that your wife is letting you do that. I know if Ann and I had a kid right now and I said, hey, honey, I'm going to go to opening night. You stay home and watch the kid. I think I would probably wake up in the hospital 4 weeks later. I think that's what would probably happen to me. So you're right. Your wife is pretty damn awesome. Good on you. And good on you for giving her some shout out praise, man. Good on you, Ghostface. All right. Murray Reich writes, ordered my Quantum Realm hoodie on Amazon Prime in time for Sunday showing. Hashtag whatever it takes. Hashtag don't spoil the end game. I really like my hoodie. I really do. I mean, I'm probably not going to get a lot of use for it after now, but I just wanted to wear it for the premiere. And I got to wear it. Me and Ann wore our matching Quantum Realm hoodies. Really happy about that. We love them. But yeah, it's always fun when you get to do that. I'm glad you were able to get yours, Murray. All right, Mad Real Cinema. Only got a few minutes left here, guys. Mad Real Cinema writes, started Game of Thrones last Wednesday. I'm now on season 7. All I have to say is I'm sorry for doubting you, Game of Thrones. And that's a really good binging show. Game of Thrones is a good binging show. And I almost kind of envy you a little bit, Mad Real, that you got to watch it and not have to wait a year in between seasons. You're able to just jump on, start watching, and get right into the final season, and you will probably be caught up before we get into episode 4 of the final season. You'll be watching right along with us. That's a good run there, Mad Real. All right, Set Ek 13 writes, after seeing Endgame, my top 5 MCU films are 5 Guardians, number 4 Civil War, number 3 Infinity War, number 2 Endgame, number 1 Winter Soldier. Top 4 are all Russo films. Turns out, yeah. What I like, and I love the Russos. Everybody knows I love the Russos. They've been kind enough to come into my studio a couple of times. I've really enjoyed hanging out with them. They're great. But they'll be the first person to tell you that. Don't forget, they got to build movies on top of the previous work that was done by other directors before them, which is a big reason why their movies are so good as well. So keep that in mind. I'm not surprised you're saying Winter Soldier. A lot of people, it's not my favorite of all time, but it was always amazing to me because when I usually talk greatest comic book movie of all time, it usually comes down to 2 films, Avengers and The Dark Knight. But it is crazy how many people I talk to that actually think Winter Soldier might be the best comic book movie ever made. And for good reason. I can see why. Let's see. Madsif writes, get that corn out of my face. I'm stumped. I don't know what that one is, Madsif. Diego Sanchez writes, going to see Endgame tonight. Super excited. Also praying for you, Doshi. Hashtag whatever it takes. Of course, we have one of our regular community members was diagnosed with leukemia, and Doshi is battling through it. Thanks for sharing that, Diego. Ant Banks 1984 writes, if you can't answer, I understand. In your opinion, if this the Hulk, you probably mean is this the Hulk you've been waiting to see in Endgame? Obviously, I cannot answer that, Ant Banks. I mean, you knew that too. You knew that when you wrote the question that I can't answer that because it's just too soon. You bet your ass we'll talk about that on Sunday when we do our open spoiler discussion of Endgame. But right now, I can't answer that question. But I thank you for asking nonetheless. All right. Brendan M. writes, ecstatic to see Endgame tonight 4 times this weekend. Booked 2 more show times after hearing you and Rob talk about it. Though they are ridiculously late/early, I will have seen all 4 Avengers movies 4 times on their opening weekends. Wow. Dude, by the way, thank you for that super chat, man. That's really a generous contribution to the channel. Thank you for supporting the channel, man. But wow. I can't say that. I think there might have been 1 or 2 I've seen 4 times opening weekend, but I certainly can't say I've seen them all 4 times opening weekend. I'm going to see Endgame 4 times, but I don't know if it counts as opening weekend because I saw the premiere and then I was at the press screening. And I'm seeing it tonight and I'm seeing it one more time this weekend, but I don't know if that counts. But that is impressive. And yes, for so many people, Brendan, it is... You know, we've been just counting down the days all year. Ever since Infinity War, we've just been counting down the days all year. And it's kind of surreal to think it's now here. Today's the day. There are like thousands of you guys watching this show that you're going to go see it tonight. And thousands of others of you that you've already seen it because you live outside of the U.S. It is crazy to think that it is finally here. And it's the fulfillment of this Infinity Saga. And then what's even crazier to think, Brendan, is that in just 2 months, we got another MCU movie. In just 2 months, we got another one coming. That also looks freaking amazing, that I cannot wait to see. But anyway, 4 times in weekend, man, I tip my hat to you, sir, as a fellow MCU fan. I hope you have a great time tonight. Thanks for sharing that, dude. All right, Carlos Rojas sends in a super chat. Thank you, Carlos. And then he follows up with, hey, John, so excited for Endgame tonight. Watching it with my girlfriend and brother, and also have a showing tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, which is nuts. But it's the best thing, going with your brother and your girlfriend. This is the thing, movies like this, big event movies, whether it's a Star Wars movie, an MCU movie, a DCU movie, a Mission Impossible movie, a James Bond movie, these big, highly anticipated movies, Godzilla, Pikachu, whatever. I'm all about going to the movies by myself when I do. I have a good time going by myself. But when you can make it shared experience with people who are important in your life, that's when movies are extra special. And so when we get to combine a really special movie like this, and you combine that with the fact that you're going to share this experience with your brother, girlfriend, all that kind of stuff, it makes it that more special. in my opinion, at any rate. It makes the whole experience that much more special, and I'm glad you're going to get to have that, Carlos. Thanks for sharing that, man. Jack Humphreys writes, saw Endgame, really like it. Some surprises, but my enjoyment was a little tainted because of the spoilers I saw. Still had a good time nonetheless, and I'm glad that you were able, and that's going to be the story for a lot of people, Jack, is that there are a lot of people who have had at least part of Endgame spoiled for them. No doubt it's happened when we all knew that was unavoidable. The important thing is you were still able to go in and have a good time. That's the important thing. It is unfortunate about the spoilers, but you had a good time, man, and that's all that matters. And in the long run, like 6 months from now, we're not going to be worried about the fact that we were spoiled a little bit before it came out. We're just going to be thinking about the movie itself, and that's the important thing. All right, Darth Impact writes, the only ones that's not going to make money during Endgame is the movie theater concession stands. 3+ hours, no one's going to buy anything to drink. Yeah, incorrect. Incorrect, Darth. I can tell you for certain that movie theaters are going to make record amounts of money. Record amounts of money at the concession stand this weekend. And here's why. There are 2% of us that are like, I cannot miss 1 second of this movie. There's 2% of us that are like that. The rest of the 98% are like any other movie. Yeah, if I got to get up and go to the bathroom at some point, I get up and go to the bathroom. No big deal. I'll miss a minute and a half. No big deal. That's going to be the attitude of the vast majority of people. So I'm telling you, yeah, movie theaters, this is going to be a record-breaking weekend for them because they're going to sell more soda, more candy, more popcorn than they ever have, ever. And they know it, and it's going to be really huge for them. All right, Maya Demi writes, happy I stayed unspoiled unless one image on my suggested YouTube videos, but I quickly erased my memory. Have to watch Endgame once more on Monday. It's too much. I mean, yeah, and that's truly a real thing, Maya. There is a lot in Endgame to take in and digest. The first 2 acts, like I said, for me, it's a mixed bag of big pros and some problems. So it's a mixed bag for me the first couple hours. But even then, there's a lot in there to digest. And then you get to the final hour, which is just, like I said, I think the finest hour in the history of the comic book genre ever. There is a lot to digest. And that's why, even when I came out, one of the things I said in my first social media post was, I got to digest this more. I got to see this thing another time to really start to solidify my thoughts because there is a lot in there, Maya. And I'm happy you were able to stay mostly unspoiled. All right, Mickey Alteri writes, one of two, we had people literally get out of their seats and cheer at Endgame. I mean, cheering and clapping while sitting is one thing, which I still annoyed. Let me try this again. I mean, cheering and clapping while sitting is one thing, which is still annoying since every MCU film I've seen, people overreact. But actually standing up is a whole other thing. Like it's a movie, stay seated, standing is kind of rude. I don't know, Mickey. I'm going to disagree with you on that. I respectfully acknowledge your opinion on that, and I feel for you. But to me, movies are experiences. You guys have heard me say this all the time, right? Movies to me are experiential events. And like, I know you're sitting like, come on, this isn't a sports event. It kind of is in a way. And to me, and again, I can only speak for myself, Mickey, and this is with all due respect to your position, and I respect where you're coming from. But for me, like I said, movies are experiential events. And when I am seeing a movie, it's only happened 4 or 5 times that I am so overwhelmed with the experience that I feel like weeping. I weep. People weep. People cry. When something happens in a movie on a humor experience that your subconscious and your mind finds really funny, you're not gonna stay quiet. You're gonna laugh out loud. So we've heard that, like, audience is laughing out loud because there's a joke. That's the experience it elicits. And it's only happened a couple of times in movie theaters for me, maybe 3-4 times, that I've been so captured by the excitement and the thrill of what's going on screen that, like, my body just reflexively wants to laugh out loud. My body wants to reflexively stand to my feet and cheer. Then damn it, do it. You know, these are experiential things. And if the experience that gets elicited out of you is emotional and cry time, then you cry. If it's hilarious and your body wants to laugh, then you laugh. And granted, it's only happened to me 3 or 4 times, if you're in a movie and the experience is so moving to you that your natural reflex instinct is to stand to your feet and cheer, then you do it. And I'll tell you what, as a film fan, for me, I love it when I see my fellow film fans doing that. Even if it's not me doing it, I love seeing people having an experience. And Endgame, for whatever pros and whatever cons it may have coming along with it, Endgame is one hell of an experiential movie. It's one hell of an experiential movie. There's lots of cry time. There's lots of laughs. There's lots of excitement and thrills. And so you're going to see some people crying in theaters. You're going to see some people laughing in theaters. And in some theaters, you're going to see people just the reflex action is going to be to stand to their feet and cheer, as if their favorite football team just got a touchdown. And to me, that's the movies. I'll go one further. To me personally, and again, I mean no disrespect to your point of view on this, not at all. Nor does my point of view invalidate your point of view, not at all. I'm just speaking for myself. For me, that's what the movies is all about. To get in there with a big group of other people, to feel fear, to feel excitement, to feel laughter, to feel emotion, to want to cry, to want to gasp, to jump out of your seat from a startle. Like this is the movies at its best to me. It's when the audience is so enraptured with what's going on screen that we just react with the movie. Now, not everybody feels that way, and I respect that. I totally do. But like I said, Mickey, to me, hell yeah. I may not jump out of my seat and cheer on my 3rd screening of Endgame, but I'm going to tell you what, it's going to make my heart kind of happy if I see other people doing it. If I see other people having that much fun, if I see that many people having that solid of an experience that their bodies just want to jump out of the seat and cheer and scream and whatever, it's going to make my heart happy. It'll make my heart happy. Anyway, that's just kind of how I personally feel about that. All right. Thank you for that, Mickey. Great topic to bring up, Mickey. I appreciate that very much. All right. Just a couple more here, then we're going to wrap it up here. Daniel Fitzpatrick writes, saw Endgame last night. Great time. I'm loved it. Glad you had a good time, man. And I think this is going to be the response of a lot of people. Make sure you come back and join us on Sunday for our open spoiler discussion. And our final one today comes to us from Mark Blaza, who writes, so many thoughts about Endgame, so clearly you saw it already, that I can't wait for your spoiler discussion on Sunday. Love it. It's like holding your pee for 3 hours and bursting like a hydrant in the bathroom afterwards. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, let me see. Oh, I don't know if I can pull it up here. I probably can't, but I put something like that up on my Instagram. It's crazy true. It is crazy true. Now, I was very strategic about it. I didn't care my second screening because I had already seen the movie, but my first screening, I was very strategic about planning when I consumed liquid and when I'd have my last bathroom break before going into the movie, and I made it through the whole movie with no problems, actually. Although I did miss being able to have a big soda with my movie, but whatever. We make sacrifices. # whatever it takes. So that was there too. But yeah, dudes, when Endgame finished... Now, there's always, when a movie's done, a little bit of a rush for people to get to the bathroom. But when Endgame finished, I had never seen a longer line at a men's room in my life. And now, I didn't need to go because I planned everything out perfectly. But I have never seen, like, so many people rushing to the bathroom so fast. It was impressive, Mark. It was really impressive. There were a couple little short ones here. Let me just get through these quick short ones. I'm Upset writes, thoughts on the Warriors of Virtue. Is that the one where the kid like goes down the sewer into a different world. And there's like, it's kind of like Kung Fu Panda. There are these animal warriors and there's an evil. Oh God, I think I saw that once. It came out sometime in the late 90s, and I think I saw it once, and I don't remember much about it. If I'm even thinking of the right one. For all I know, you're talking about an anime that I'm not aware of. But if you're talking about the movie I'm thinking, that was from the late 90s. I don't remember much of it, to be honest with you. Yeah, straight up, I'm upset. I don't remember much of it. Jessica Tennis writes, now that was a proper Game 7, Fear the Whale. That was a great, look, when you get a Game 7 in hockey and it goes to overtime, let alone double overtime, that's insane. So that was pretty thrilling. And now the last question of the day comes to us from Terrell Weiss, who writes, watching Endgame on Friday, tickets cost $15 worth it. Dude, the theater I'm seeing it in tonight was $23. Yeah, $23 where I live to go watch Endgame tonight, which is absolutely nuts. All right, guys, listen. Everybody else from Gio, Daryl Best Wadley, Edward Dillon, Marie Seifring, and all the way down, do not worry. I'm going to answer your questions today in a video, in a companion video a little bit later today before I go to see Endgame tonight. So a little bit later this afternoon, you will see your questions and everybody else who's got questions still coming all the way down. Don't you worry. We're going to get to those questions just a little bit later this afternoon. For now, that will do it for me, guys, for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here. By the way, make sure you guys go check out Robert and Greg Alba and their stuff. It was great having them on the show today. And let me know what you guys think about having multiple guests on at the same time. It made the show go a little bit longer, but maybe that's good. I don't know. We'll find out a little bit later. But those guys are awesome, and I love having them on the show. And I love having you guys here joining us as well. Listen, one more quick plug. Don't forget our podcast, Best Movie, Worst Movie. It is available on iTunes or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Make sure you find it, subscribe to it. Our newest episode just went online yesterday. Go check it out. Make sure you subscribe, rate it, and make sure you comment on it as well. And again, guys, don't forget, this Sunday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, me, Robert, and Ann might be joining us as well. We'll go into our full, probably 5 hours long, maybe more, with tons of companion videos to follow, open Avengers Endgame spoiler discussion. Make sure you guys come and join us then. All right, guys, thank you again for being here. I love having a film fan community we can talk movies with. Don't forget, come on back tomorrow. The John Campea Show returns again tomorrow morning. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.